Uh,
Over
okay.
to you, Cameron, for your final case study.
Okay, thanks very much, Henry. Okay, yeah, so my name is Cameron Halkett, and this is my case study, sort of showcasing work I did at the end of my Prod MBA course. There we go. So the product process. So basically what I'm going to be covering over this case study is mainly three steps in terms of the validating the problem, validating the offer, and then strategic planning. This is in terms of sort of taking a product from concept to delivery. There's also other steps which I didn't get to in terms of validating the prototype and iterating on the offering. So that's a brief overview of what is going to be in the case study. So starting off with the problem, it's important to, when looking at product management and building a product, that we start with a problem and not with a solution. So the problem that I was tackling or thought I was tackling is tech teams disengaged with task management. And as you can see, someone bored at work. So going back to the first objective, which would be validating that this is actually a real problem that people are dealing with, and it's a problem worth solving. So just again, reiterating, tech teams disengaged with task management. What I set out to do would be to identify if this was an acute problem through 5 different discovery calls. And then I wanted to also measure if Reddit would be a good acquisition channel. So validating that as a channel. So the results I got from this is I managed to book 5 out of the 5 discovery calls, and 20% or one call at least came through Reddit. So this is just giving a bit of an overview of the discovery work that I had done. Part of the feedback, Jira was overwhelmingly the main tool that was used for task management, and with mixed feedback. I mean, someone actually linked me to this site. I'm just going to share it very briefly. But yeah, I fucking hate Jira.com. And you can see different opinions that people gave. So going back, that's sort of pointed to me that this is an acute problem. One experience that people had was everyone had a lack of time. So they had this issue, but there was, they felt like it was too big of a task. The whole company is on Jira. How am I going to, move to another platform? Felt like a very big task to do. And then almost everyone's teams were disengaged updating their tasks. So that's moving a ticket from, in progress to done. And on Reddit, I did a bit of a poll to sort of try and get more of an insight on this. So I had 133 responders to this, and with 66% of those responders, they had some sort of issue with task management, whether it being that they had to prompt their team, their team rarely did it, or they don't even read the tickets in the first place. So this just goes back to reiterate that this is an acute problem worth solving, the fact that tech teams are disengaged with task management. And this was posted in the subreddit for product management. So it's quite a very specific niche there. So moving on to objective 2, I've defined then that this is a problem worth solving. And now I need to validate that what I'm going to offer actually, resonates with that niche. So my MVO statement, which is the minimum viable offer, so that's, if we just had a landing page with that offer, would that entice users? Would that, make them want to sign up just with the offer of that alone? So we help product managers engage their team by transforming work into an exciting team building adventure. That was my initial MVO statement. And what I wanted to do from that was have at least more than 5 people that visited the website lead to a sign-up conversion. I wanted to also ensure that I had good differentiation with my Blue Ocean strategy canvas. And I wanted to create a product story canvas for vision and alignment. So as you can see, that again is the initial landing screen that I used. And my results from this were fairly positive. I had 13% visits to sign up conversion. A brief note on this as well. I initially, going back to the idea that Jira was sort of the other or the big player in this, I sort of started out my MBA was like a Jira alternative, mentioning Jira on the website, saying, Jira sucks, basically. And that didn't do very well at all. So I quickly had to change and pivot to this one. And then I did my Blue Ocean strategy canvas and found that creating an engaging product that promotes usage across an entire tech team is something that isn't really found within this market. Jira focuses very much on task management and making sure that you can do that specific thing very well. I don't think that competing with them when they have such a fleshed out product would be wise. So making something that's engaging and promoting usage across the whole team rather than just product managers is where I saw this fitting in. So validating my product vision. Task management can be engaging and fun. Updating tickets doesn't have to be boring. That's the sort of vision that I set out for after all of my calls and after all of the research. I think that focusing in on being engaging and fun, something that task management is seen to many people as a chore, making it something that people want to do and are actively involved in and enjoy. So going back to the objectives, objective 3 would be planning and making sure that the product has long-term success. So from this, I wanted to define a strategic roadmap and look at an initial prototype. And I also wanted to define a lean canvas. So with the strategic roadmap, what I want to do is look at the very first things that we want to maybe look at, how they would be built or how they would look, what sort of stuff would we want to gain from doing this. So because of the engaging with the whole team, the first major concept or major bit of development that I would look at doing is around the inviting. So making sure that all of the team were on the platform and making sure that they're engaged. The next is around the creating and assigning tasks. Obviously, we're not going to be a competitor with Jira. They own that very well, but there's still a need for being able to track the tasks within a separate platform. And then the differentiator would be the character creation. So I had an idea of gamifying this task management where so gamifying it in a way where it wasn't just a profile like, oh, this is Cameron's profile. You could have it, create more of a story around it and offer some rewards. And that was the real differentiator for me. So it's important to build that fairly early on so that people realize, why use your product over someone else's. And on top of this, looked at building and theorizing at least an initial prototype experiment. So the outcome we wanted to achieve with this is to help PMs engage their team. And the main risk around doing this for me would be the value risk. Obviously, there's a lot of other alternatives. So building a prototype and seeing from users that there would be value in what we're going to build is really important. And there's lots of different ways that this could have been done. We could have just tried to do a very basic wireframe, just a theorizing on whether or not it's possible. But I think for something like this, where the differentiation is actually in the UI itself or in the branding, in the fun that people would have with it, I thought it was important that a high fidelity prototype would be used. So when we do that, we'd create a high fidelity almost wireframe of the product and then get potential users to go through and rate it based on whether or not that they were engaged or whether the team would be engaged from that. I also then obviously need to think about the business side of this. How are we going to make money? How's it going to work? How's it going to fit into the landscape? So the main sort of costs around this would probably most likely be development costs, obviously some graphics, but that's probably a lot less. The unfair advantage I also thought was a real sort of key thing to hone in on in terms of the brand. You think of task management, you think of Jira, Asana, Trello. It's all very corporate and quite mundane So the brand of whatever we were going to build would have to be something that people, wanted to sort of find out more about and wanted to actually be a part of. And as well, you're not, other than the time spent invested in building a Jira board, there's nothing really there that, oh yeah, I named my epic something really nice. There's not really too much there that really draws you in. So having some investment around the character that you built, anyone that plays games, which is, kind of one of our sort of target sectors, you build up a character. You don't want to, if you lost your save file, then that's like a massive blow. So building that investment, and then as well network effects, you're wanting to share that character, wanting to, get your whole team in and build their own one so you can laugh at your mates who look stupid. That's something I thought would build a good unfair advantage. In terms of the revenue streams, this could be a subscription, potentially in terms of tiered seating, tiered pricing based on seats, or unlocking different features or different customization levels, even where you could have packages of different costume sets, or anything for your character. That's quite a well managed part of games, where you can sort of upgrade your character, and that is normally behind a paywall. So I think that's sort of an expected cost structure. So moving on, going to my principles of product management. So I think it's really important to build something that's minimum lovable, not just minimum viable. You can use many different products, and if it's not something that works particularly well, they can have flaws, but there might be one thing that they do really well that you love, and you'll go back to them for that. I think, like I keep saying, there's no point for us competing with Jira on all of their, we would be spread so thin, and create something that's maybe even barely minimum viable. I think the time we're spending on making something that's lovable would serve us really well, and then allow us to gain that customer trust and forgive us maybe for some of the other stuff that we don't do quite as well as Jira. Something as well that I have a background in customer service. I think it's important to build empathy. So you're not going to understand your users and even your team unless you really try and put yourself in their shoes. So that's something as well that I've learned from doing the customer calls. And then focus on what makes you different. Like I said, we're not going to be Jira, we're not going to be Asana. We need to stand out and focus on what actually makes us different. And another principle I've learned from mainly doing this course as well is being open to change. I had the idea that we're just going to be some Jira competitor, but it's important not to get too attached to that. And I believe
Awesome.
That concludes my case study. So thank you very much.
Well timed as well. It's very rare that someone comes in at 15. Good. Yeah, you can stop screen share if you want, and I'll just go through. So I'll go through bullet points on the case study, and then we'll slow down and talk about next steps. So first thing, common, generally good, by the way. One thing to improve upon generally is something called bridging. So that's like connecting between points. So rather than going like click slide, objective one was ... Then key result one was, it's not clear. Obviously I get it, but it's not clear for someone that doesn't do this process. Like why are you showing me, okay, you go key result one, discovery calls. They're like, what the hell are discovery calls? Okay. So just going, for example, an example of good bridging would be, so, once we'd identified the problem, we wanted to understand, is this, a real problem? What's actually going on here? That's why we then went and spoke to 5 customers to understand what's going on. See, I don't even mention these buzzwords, objective, key result, discovery calls.
Yeah.
But it's just clear like what we were doing and why we did those things.
Would you say that sort of leading into the next slide, you're sort of saying like, for discovery calls, this is really important because X, Y, and Z, and sort of then transition into it?
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to do some discovery calls to understand what was really going on. And here, next slide, here were some learnings from those calls.
Okay. Yeah.
So the reason why it's, think like any story, you don't want to see like a music video, like random bits popping up. You want a clear narrative that you can follow the logic. Basically, you want the audience to go, I get why Cameron is showing me this slide right now. because I've seen
Yeah,
what's coming before, and he's signaled probably what's coming up.
yeah, that makes sense.
Second point, I always thought it's a great problem, and you got good validation as well quite quickly. So there's definitely something here. MVO again was good. I think well written. Great again. You did this one. You did actually say like, here's the MVO, what it is, why it's important.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of standing against Jira. I thought it was a good one. I was surprised that it couldn't get traction. I think it's probably because you're not offering what we call the promised land, which is okay, like people hate Jira, but like, what are you going to give me that's going to be good and exciting?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I could have talked about this in a case study. So I did another post in Reddit, which was like roast my concept, like because can't give too much.
Yeah, publicity.
You'll be flagged for like
Yeah.
So and people were saying like because I had a big picture of a dragon, they were like, oh yeah, that's going to be like oh yeah, we don't use Jira, but we've got a dragon, so yeah, they're just roasting that.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. It's good to be like alternative, but you need to actually provide the alternative. I thought vision was good, but like one thing, and it doesn't come naturally to Brits, but something like a vision statement. Imagine you're pitching this to like your team and organization. If you're not excited about this, there is no way in hell that they're going to buy into it. You need to read it with energy, with confidence. Even if you don't feel it, you need to plant a flag as a leader and get people to follow you. So focus on that, really sort of bringing energy to the table. Big part, by the way, of product leadership is just that, like being the energy, even if you're not feeling it on a certain day or if it feels a bit unnatural.
Yeah.
On the roadmap, just be a little bit careful how you introduce this. You sort of talked about this is sort of overview of what we're going to build. We don't actually want to talk about that because then what are stakeholders going to latch on and be right? Cameron said we're going to build this. We're definitely going to build it, right? No, we want to show, look, here are the outcomes that are absolutely essential for us to drive towards, but we've got actually different ways we could deliver them. And then do as you did. You go through the outcomes, nice explanation, high level, not too detailed. That was great. And talking, basically showing like these outcomes are what we think are going to drive success for the user, but also drive success for the business. And I liked, however, that you talked about, for example, the importance of differentiation, how that was reflected in the outcomes and the order of that. They're really actually very like senior point to make. So I thought that was great. And actually throughout the whole thing, it was awesome that you kept coming back to this, like, why the hell are they going to choose us? Most people just skip over that. That if I'm listening to you or like going to invest in you on that, that's the big thing for me, which was great to hear. Prototype, good, clear explanation. I thought it was also value risk made sense in this case. Lean canvas, again, it's great. You came back and said, like, why the hell would they choose us versus competition? Just with some of the points, this is the big business piece, right? Is okay, cool. There's something here. Here's what it looks like as a business. For you to get respect from stakeholder, just briefly going into rather than being like, yeah, we could have network effects. What is a network effect? How is it going to help us carve out some market share? How's it going to help us with defensibility long term? They're more like they're more senior things to do, but that's where you want to go essentially. So get really comfortable with these more advanced topics.
Okay, so we say something like a network effect. You'd break down what a network effect is first, would you? And then sort of
briefly and just how that's going to help us carve out market share.
Okay.
And then also look, so because remember we enter a market, which is usually around our unique value prop and differentiation. Then it's how do we protect defend our castle.
Okay, yeah.
The defensibility piece. Yeah. So you could say something like, because of the fact that, all we need to do is get into one team, see then the product manager, love the product, share it with her team. We're going to then be embedded in that organization. We're going to see that grow. Over the long term, that also means it's harder for competitors to disrupt us because we're going to be, try to really be embedded and loved within their workflow. Try and shift, that negative metric that Jira have to actually a positive.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely.
But again, it's pretty advanced. It's like senior PM stuff. And then final thing, I liked your principles. I thought they showed a good level of maturity for someone that's a junior PM. So I thought it was great. So final points, Cameron, I think 3 things for me in terms of next step, and these are, by the way, based on sort of observations from the 8 weeks plus the case study. I think one is you know, you've now got good foundations as a product manager. You know, you're a little bit weaker on product strategy, like some of the business topics, as I just mentioned there, but that is completely normal. Like I'd be surprised if you were coming in and talking about like lifetime value of customer versus expected costs. Indeed, yeah, that's advanced stuff. It's like a leadership thing. But these are the areas for you to, you know, if you want to go to that next stage, is going to be really around business and strategy. So just come back to the videos,
Okay.
you know, put the stuff into practice where possible. Say you've got another idea. Hey, why not just do a blue ocean quickly on the side? To be proactive outside of your day to day, because you're not going to be trained on this stuff. Like you have to take control of it yourself. So again, good foundation, but that's how you're going to get to that next level. Second thing, this concept I found so interesting because I was, you know, I'm what I would call a skeptical optimist, which is I'm expecting failure to happen or things to be really hard, but I know that I'll probably succeed in the end. So, for example, with your concept, problem, this is acute. Opportunity, yeah, you validate it. There is something here to be absolutely confident about. I'm really optimistic about. With your current concept, though, you know, it's when I remember I drilling you on the sort of the solution idea. Just, you know, do remember every single time, like, how the hell are we going to shift them away from Jira? There's an opportunity there, but it's going to be really tough.
Okay.
Why? Because of things like they are embedded. They have a network effect. They're embedded in organizations. You have the fact that traditional organizations just rarely shift. Where you have things like yours is a habit formation tool and it requires many people to be using it. So, you know, again, this is advanced stuff and this takes you know, for me, it's like 10, 12 years of building stuff and failing to sort of have that mindset. But yeah, I want to see a more pragmatic and skeptical mindset when it came to your solution. And that just, well, by the way, will come with experience. You're going to have a few failures and sort of start to, you never get discouraged, by the way. There's 100% something here, but I want you to really be, you know, don't just blindly build something, really be like, is this what we should be building? Why? Is it the easiest thing? Is it the best thing we could be building? It always sort of like it's like an anxiety of questioning. I don't know if it's healthy, but it's good for product success. But again, like with the previous one, it's an experience thing that'll come with time.
Is that like because I was talking about, you know, this is how we're gonna like build our network effects, but then it's like, okay, yeah, that's great if people are signing up in the first place. You know how
exactly break it down break it down to realistic kind of steps. So, you know, I'd like to see when you talked about the solution, like what's the realistic thing that we can try and deliver initially that provide value. And then final thing, I think just be more confident with communication. You're smart. Again, you've got all the foundations now. You're in a startup role. You're going to be learning a lot. A lot of people just hold themselves back by not being confident or not communicating, you know, not putting your voice out at times. And I think that's something that could hold you back. So just try and sort of lean in as much as possible to things. You know, again, you're in a startup, like put your voice out there. It's a really good opportunity to grow.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, good. And just to wrap up with a final minute, is there anything sort of you want to be focusing on moving forward?
I guess it's probably the last thing you mentioned. I think that, like you said, that's probably the main thing that would hold me back. I think I can learn everything else and I'd be fine just doing it by myself. But with talking to a team or, you know, involving yourself with stakeholders, you know, maybe it comes with trial and error as well. And
100%. I was going to say, look, the only thing that really works here is go back over the content, try stuff out. You're just going to, you know, you bring a depth then to all these topics.
Yeah.
You know, rather than being like, I've heard about this thing called MBA, being a bit quiet and scared of introducing. The more repetitions you get, the more you go back to the theory. You're just going to like be pretty confident you can bounce questions and come up with good ideas. Yeah, it really is as simple as that. There's no sort of shortcuts to it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we'll wrap up there. Any questions like career related, work related, you know, if you're setting up a workshop, do reach out. Honestly, I'm more than happy to help and stay in touch with the community again, post questions, get as much sort of feedback and support as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And yeah, I've very much enjoyed the course. So yeah, thanks for your time.
No, that's great. Great to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, now it's just put it into practice. Nice. Well, have a good afternoon, and we'll stay in touch on the
Awesome.
community.
Cheers, Henry. Have a good one. See ya.
Bye.